Former Deputy Prime Minister Sheila Copps is no stranger to politics and controversy. Once working closely with Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, Sheila's been an outspoken critic about the SNC-LAVALIN controversy, and she joins me now from Mexico. Sheila, there are a lot of Canadians on the side of Jody Wilson-Raybould. I'm going to just put up a tweet right away. You've come out with a contrarian view that dominated Twitter for a while. What is your chief issue with the former Attorney General?
I think her story before the Justice Committee does not ring true. She testified that on the 17th of September, she had made her decision before meeting with the Prime Minister and felt undue pressure on the 17th of September, but did not leave the cabinet until late February. And she also said that she thought there was undue interference because she was asked by the Prime Minister and by the Privy Council office to consider a reference to Beverly McLaughlin, the former Supreme Court Justice, for a legal opinion. And I think when you're in politics, it's fair that you can have your opinion, and that's an important opinion. But in order to make that opinion, you have to first be prepared to hear the opinions of others. And it was clear, according to her own testimony, she said, I made my decision before I took the meeting with the Prime Minister. And I just think that's unheard of given the circumstances and the potential economic fallout from the decision.
Okay, so you're standing by the idea that this is about jobs, but there's a lot of Canadians very concerned about the allegations of fraud and corruption against SNC-LAVALIN, and they feel the former Attorney General was just defending our country's ethics. Don't you agree?
No, I don't. And in fact, the individuals in SNC-LAVALIN who were involved with the fraud have already been convicted and done jail time. So there's a question of the corruption of individuals and also the corruption of a company. What the company was looking for and what was denied by the minister without seeking a second legal opinion, even though the office from the prosecutor's office was split on the decision, they were not unanimous that it was out of the realm of possibility. What she's suggesting is that it was interference, and what the Prime Minister is suggesting, it's in the public interest to make sure you've got all the information before you make a decision that could literally affect thousands of families, not just in Quebec. In fact, of the 9,000 Canadian employees of SNC-LAVALIN, 5,000 of them are employed outside Quebec.
Okay, a side issue. So you've got the ethics, you've got the bribery, you've got all of those concerns. But now you have 3 female members of Parliament leaving the Prime Minister, and it's becoming a gender issue. How do you feel about those concerns?
Well, I think it's pretty disingenuous. First of all, they're not leaving the Prime Minister. That's the other thing that's quite disingenuous, because according to Jody Wilson-Raybould, she was pressured unduly, although legally, but unduly. And in the case of Jane Philpott, she said she lost faith in the government, but she was at an announcement yesterday with a government minister. So they haven't left. They've kind of partially left. And I think that that also calls into question, what's the rationale? What's the end game here? If Jody Wilson-Raybould really felt on the 17th of September that she was facing undue pressure and could not proceed, she could have stepped aside and taken a moral and ethical stand at that time. She did not do so until she was offered 2 other cabinet positions, one of which she turned down, the other one she took. She stayed there for a few weeks and then left. And we still don't know why the 4-month gap between her pressure and her departure. It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
And on the women's side, I think I got an email yesterday from a 76-year-old feminist. She said, now, because you're a woman, nobody can question you. Logically speaking, any person who serves in cabinet deserves to be part of a team, but also have their decisions questioned. And the fact that Jody Wilson-Raybould is a woman, an Indigenous woman, and the 3rd MP is a woman of color is not relevant to Trudeau's record on women. Okay. He's got dozens of women in the cabinet who are still working with him. So are we now to believe that if you're a woman, nobody can say anything against you?
All right. You also feel this has set up Mr. Scheer very well, the infighting that you just described in the Liberal Party. How worried are you about Mr. Scheer heading into these next months that are leading us into the election?
Well, I think Mr. Scheer overreached himself by asking for Mr. Trudeau's resignation, but I think Mr. Trudeau also has to show some leadership. He's been very nice to everybody, and I think sunny days are good. But he's the one who also set up the narrative on women and Indigenous reconciliation and minorities. And that's the narrative that's blown up in his face. So that's been self-inflicted from inside the Liberal Party.
Okay.
Mr. Scheer has gotten a free ride at this point, but it's not going to continue for the next 5 months.
All right. Sheila Copps, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Lorna. Appreciate it. Much appreciated.